So in this video, we are going to see the DP-203 question, the real-time question. So the first question is, you have a table in Azure Synapse Analytics dedicated SQL pool. The table was created by using following transact SQL statement. So this is the table we are creating. Create table, dbu is schema, dot dimension employee. This is the table name. And employee key, employee ID, first name, last name, job title, all things are the column name. Int is a data type, identity 1 comma 1, then it is not null. It is defining the column is null or not null. So you need to alter the table to meet the following requirement. So in this we have to update our table due to some requirements. So our condition is ensure that user can identify the current manager of employee, support creating an employee reporting hierarchy for the entire company. Third option is provide first lookup of the manager attributes such as the name and job title. Which column should you add to the table? So the correct answer is C. Manager employee key data type is null, int, and this is null. This is the most voted question. So correct option is C. Let's move to the next question. So here you can see we need an extra column to identify the manager. Use the data type as employee key column and int column. This is the reference link is available also. Now the second question is, you have a Azure Synapse workspace name my workspace that contain an Apache Spark database named my test db. You run the following command in Azure Synapse Analytics Spark pool in my workspace. So here this is the create table query. So create table my test db is schema, my parent queue UET table is table name, employee ID, employee name, and employee start date is column name. So using Parquet, you can use the Spark to insert a row into my test db dot my pair code table. That row contain the following data. Row has this data: employee name, employee ID, and employee start date. So you are firing this query. Select employee ID. When you are selecting employee ID, it will go to this 24 from my test db. My test db is a schema dot dbo. Dot dbo, it is not defined anywhere. Dot my parent table. So when we are selecting anything from the database, so we first define the schema. Schema is my test db, and then table name is my parqut table. dbo is not defined anywhere, so correct answer will be an error that this table is not defined. The option is 24, it is wrong. You get an error here. Now moving to the next question. The third question is, you have a table named sales fact in an enterprise data warehouse in Azure Synapse Analytics. Sales fact contains sales data from the past 36 months and has the following characteristic. It has the partition by month, content 1 billion rows, has cluster, column store indexes. At the beginning of each month, you need to remove data from the sales fact that is older than 36 months as quickly as possible. So when 30, that means you have to store only 36-month data in your table. If any data contain or any data has timestamp older or longer than 36 months, then you have to remove that data as soon as possible. Which three actions should you perform in sequence in a store procedure? To answer, move the appropriate action from the list of action to answer area and arrange them in a correct order. So these are the multiple action are provided in the left hand side and the on the action side, and we have to Select three of this correct action in a proper sequence. So the correct sequence will be create an empty table named sales fact work that has the same schema as a sales fact. First you have to create the schema, then switch the partition containing the sales data from sales fact to sales fact work. Correct. Then drop the sales fact work table. First you are creating one sales fact data, then switch the partition containing the stale data, extra data from in this table, then delete this table. So this is the correct order. Now moving to the next question. You have a files and folder in Azure Data Lake stored Gen 2 for an Azure Synapse workspace as shown in the following exhibit. So this is the top folder or you can call as a root folder. Then this folder has a one file name as the file 1.csv and another file 4.csv. This folder also contains two folders, folder 1 and folder 2. And folder 1 has one data file 2.csv and folder 2 has one more file which is file 3.csv. So you create an external table named ext table that has location top folder, and you have provided the root folder as the top folder only. When you query ext table by using Azure Synapse Analytics serverless SQL pool, which file are returned. So you have created one external folder here. So file 1, file 2, file 3 and file 4. According to this, they are going to fetch. But in top folder, only two files are available, file 1.csv and file 4.csv. Folder 1 and folder 2, this is acting as a folder, not as a file. So C option is correct and correct answer is B. Okay, moving to the next question. You are planning you are planning the deployment of Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. You have the following two reports that will access the data lake. Report 1, read 3 columns from file that contain 50 columns. Report 2, queries a single record based on the timestamp. So what you have to do, you need to recommend in which format to store the data in the data lake to support the report. The solution must minimize read times. What should you recommend for each report? To answer, select the appropriate option in answer area. Note each correct selection is worth 1 point. So in reports there are multiple option is available and in report too multiple option are available. So the correct option is for the report you have to select Parquet and for report to Avro AVRO. So for this requirement you can say that, if it has a multiple column then select option C for report 1 and for second report queries a single record based on the timestamp. If you are fetching something based on the timestamp then Avro is the correct option A. Then next question is you are designing the folder structure for an Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 container. User will query data by using a variety of services including Azure Databricks and Azure Synapse Analytics serverless SQL pools. The data will be secured by subject area. Most queries will include data from the current year or current month. Which folder structure should you recommend to support fast queries and simplified folder security? So they are the main statement is like most of the query include the data of the current year or the current month. That mean it is based on the timestamp thing. So here correct option will be option D. First you have to define the subject area for what you are storing the data, then data source, then year, month, date, then file data, then year, month, date, .csv. If you are storing file in this way, it will very easy for you to access the file. Now moving to the next question. You need to output file from Azure Data Factory. Which file format should you use for each type of output? To answer, select appropriate option in answer area. So column format and JSON with the timestamp. So if you want to fetch in the columnar format, then use option C, Parquet. And if you want to anything with the JSON with the timestamp or timestamp, anything, then use the option A as the AVRO. Here you can read Parquet store data in column while Avro store data in row-based format. By their very nature, column-oriented data store are optimized for read-heavy analytical workload, while row-based database are based for the write-heavy transaction workload. Box 2 is Avro, and Avro schema create using JSON format, support timestamp. Azure Data Factory support following format node gzip and or txt. Avro support this kind of the format like binary, delimited, Excel, JSON, ORC, Parquet, XML, and other thing. Moving to the next question. You use an Azure Data Factory to prepare data to be queried by Azure Synapse Analytical Serverless SQL pool. Files are initially ingested into Azure Data Lake Storage N2 account as 10 small JSON file. Each file contains the same data attribute and data from subsidiary of your company. You need to move file to a different folder and transform the data. For the following requirement, provide the fastest possible query time and automatic infer the schema from underlying files. So there are two options we have to select from drop down. So copy behavior and sync file type. So for copy behavior, option B, which is merge file, is correct, and for sync file, Parquet is the correct option. You can read preserve hierarchy. Compared to the flat namespace on the blob storage, the hierarchy namespace greatly improve the performance of directory management operation, which improve overall job performance. And second is Parquet. So Azure Data Factory Parquet format is supported for Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Okay, moving to the ninth question. So we have this data model that you plan to implement in a data warehouse in Azure Synapse Analytics as shown in the following exhibits. So dimension employees present here, fact daily booking, dimension for the customer, time is available, and all the dimension table will be less than 2 GB after compression, and the fact table is approx 6 TB. The dimension table will be relative static with very few data insert and update. Which type of table should you use for each table? To answer, select the appropriate option in answer area. So from this drop down, we have to select option like dimension customer, dimension employee, time, and the fact daily booking. So for dimension customer, you can select as a replicated. For dimension employee, it is also replicated. For dimension timestamp, it will be replicated, and for the fact daily booking, hash distributed will be correct option. So you can see the replicated table are ideal for a small star scheme dimension table because the fact table is often distributed on a column that is not compatible with the connected dimension table. That means it is a replicated it good when we are using a small or the star schema. If the case applies to schema, consider changing small dimension table currently implemented at round robin to replicated. And hash distributors is required for the fact table. Use hash distribution with the clustered column store index. Performance improve when two hash table are joined on the same distribution column. Moving to the next question. This is big one. You have an Azure data lake Gen 2 container. Then data is ingested into the container, then transformed by the data integration application. The data is not modified after that. User can read file in the container but cannot modify the files. You need to design a data archiving solution that meet the following requirement. So these four requirements we should satisfy. So new data is accessed frequently, that must be available as quickly as possible. Data that is older than 5 years are accessed infrequently but must be available within 1 second when requested. Data that is older than 7 years is not accessed after 7 years. The data must be persisted at the lowest cost possible. Cost must be minimized while maintaining the required availability. So, okay, I think I have, yeah. So, what if you want to use the 5-year-old data, then move to cool storage? If you have data for like 7-year-old data you have, then what you will do? Move to archive storage. So see, move to cool storage and move to archive storage. So in archive, optimize for the storing data that is rarely accessed. So if you have any data that is rarely getting access, right? So you can move that data to archive storage. On the order of the are the following tables for the comparison for the premium performance block storage and the hot, cool and archive access tiers. So you can see hot tier, cool tier and archive tier. So if it is like cool tier, lowest storage cost, higher access and transaction cost. So if anything is stored into the cool tier, then data is access the data is getting access like every time and the transaction cost will increase. And if you are using the archive thing, then data highest access and the transaction, so the data which are getting access are rarely getting access and the cost will be very few. And you can see latency is a millisecond for the uh, cool tier, and for the archive it is hours. So in this video we have covered the 10 main question. In next video we will cover the other question. If you have any doubt, you can ask the query in the comment section. Thank you for timing.